Imagine a cozy cafe. Everything's dark oak wood and inviting. It smells of freshly baked cinnamon rolls and freshly brewed coffee. There are books on display and a cat sleeping soundly on the counter. The place is filled with peace and calm, and there are people enjoying their drinks while reading or writing. There are no computers or phones to be seen. It's as if time has stopped and there is nowhere to rush. In another room, there is a group of people engaged in a quiet conversation, making new connections and learning new things. It's a friendly atmosphere of a tight-knit community that welcomes anyone new. The entire space is filled with magic. Magic that comes from books, chocolate, and mysteriously good bakes. But also from friendship, good conversation, and the cats who always keep you company and deliver exactly what you need. Welcome back to the Cat Coach Cafe. Me and the cat coaches, Aragorn, Apricot, and Prince, are delighted you found your way here once more, or perhaps for the very first time. This is a place where we slow down, tune to the season, take good care of ourselves, and share our love for all things cats, books, and well-being. In other words, we obey the rules of catful living. And because the cafe is also a meeting place, in each episode we welcome a special guest. This time, I'm so happy to welcome my dear friend, Donna Bradley-Brown, writer, poet, and animal lover, and we'll talk about all the animals she has in her own little sanctuary on the island of Majorca. But before that, let us ease into the present moment. Let's let go of all your to-do lists. Sit down and just relax. Take this next hour just for yourself and let your hot beverage of choice assist you with that, as we are going to start with a quick drink meditation as we always do. So, are you ready? Wrap the palms of your hands around your mug. Let the warm feeling fill your body. Doesn't it feel just so comforting? Close your eyes for a moment and let the warmth travel all the way through your body. Take a delicious deep breath. And then exhale with a sigh. Open your eyes and look at your drink. Notice its color. What is the color really? Then take the mug closer to you and deeply inhale its scent. Does the scent correspond with the color? Do it once more. Inhale its scent with your eyes closed this time. Let the scent fill your body and soul. How does it make you feel? Does it bring some memories or some feelings, ideas? Does it make you feel comforted, peaceful, or more energized? Or maybe it just brings you to the exotic lands where the ingredients grew. Perhaps it makes you feel invincible and like anything is possible. And perhaps it's a combination of all of these. Just take it all in. When you're ready, take your first sip. Slowly savor the taste. Does the taste surprise you? Or does it taste just how you expected? Take another sip and once again notice how it makes you feel. What emotions it brings, what memories, ideas, feelings. If you have a notebook and pen at hand, feel free to pause the podcast now and make some notes if you feel inspired. And whenever you're ready, continue sipping your drink at your own pace while you listen to today's episode. We are at the start of something new. A new astrological year is starting on March 20th on the spring equinox, when the day and night are equally long, and thus we're entering the lighter half of the year here in the Northern Hemisphere. With this shift, our energies shift too. We turn from the inward and the self-reflecting time of winter to the outward. This is the time to take action in the real world and start something new. Take some bold and brave steps towards our dreams. This is the time when everything seems possible. Just as nature needs to brace all kinds of weather and obstacles to grow, and she does so successfully, so we too have faith we can do and achieve anything. And we can. That said, spring can also be a difficult time for some of you, especially if you're going through difficult times. Just like Christmas can intensify feelings of loneliness, spring can intensify feelings of hopelessness. If our lives are not going the way we intended, the hopeful spring energy can feel like, honestly, a slap in the face. We might be afraid to hope because hope just leads to more and more disappointment. If this sounds like you, please know I see you and I feel you, for I myself have been where you are now, and I send you all my love. Just please be gentle with yourself and allow yourself to just embrace each moment at a time, each hour at a time, each day. And perhaps start with simply being hopeful about the next hour. If, however, you have a spring in your step already and feel filled with the spring energy, now is the time to set some intentions and make plans and truly start the year. For now, the new year truly starts. I personally never feel inspired to set any goals or make any plans at the start of the calendar year, as it simply doesn't feel right. It's not a suitable time for that. And I believe many people struggle to keep their New Year resolutions, not only because they can be unrealistic, but also because they are simply made at the wrong time when the energy is simply not present. How much more successful we could all be if we just set up those resolutions on spring equinox. We're full of that go-getter energy and confidence, and we are ready to enter the world once more. That said, I invite you to set those intentions now. Whether you set some New Year's goals or resolutions already or not, we can all start over here. What does it feel right now? How do you envision the year ahead? What would you like to bring? What dreams and goals are you going to focus on? And once you're clear on those, try to make a plan to achieve them. It doesn't have to be a full year plan or anything too elaborate, but perhaps the next 2 months. This is also a perfect time to think about any bigger investments you'd like to make this year and plan your finances, or to plan your holidays or any other activities. Again, it doesn't have to be a detailed plan for the year ahead, but I find it helps me so much to organize my time if I have at least a brief idea what I'd like to do and when, and then adjust the plan as I go. But at least I have some kind of a roadmap. This would include, for example, how I like to spend my birthday this year, or the birthdays of my loved ones, or any significant anniversaries and ideas how to spend them. And then a very important part of your planning should also include what new things you would like to try this year. As you are filled with the bold and fearless energy of spring right now, where anything seems possible, now is the perfect time to tune in and set some of those goals which perhaps scare you, or just excite you, or you never seem to make time for, but you just really want to try, and which will stretch your comfort zone and help you grow, bring in new experiences, and create new memories. Talking of following your dreams, Aragorn has some words of wisdom to share. You see, humans have this strange trait. They long for something. They have a dream, as they call it. And instead of going after it, they do nothing because they don't think they are good enough. Or when they do and finally get a chance to make it real, they freeze. And every cat knows freezing only ever serves one purpose: becoming invisible. And I don't believe that's the effect you want to achieve when trying to reach your dream, is it now? So here's how it's wrong. First, would you ever have that longing or the dream if you couldn't achieve it? How would you have that dream in the first place? Like when I dream of some tasty meal and then wake up to find out it was just a dream, I just get up and go find myself something tasty anyway, because I know I can, because I just dreamt it. You see, if you have a dream that chases you, you just go and make it happen somehow, even if at first it might not be exactly the same as you envisioned. Like, I don't usually wake up to fresh meat with creamy sauce, but instead of complaining and thinking, poor me, I go and find the next best thing. I don't just give up on my dream. The dream is to get something tasty, and that I can accomplish. And sometimes I even get pleasantly surprised. But that comes hand in hand with the second human problem, which is even more crucial. You see, no cat ever thought, maybe I'm not good enough. We cats are confident creatures, and we believe in everything we do. We get the ideas and dreams, and we are 100% sure we can achieve them. Sure, we fail sometimes too, but that takes nothing away from our confidence. After all, we tried, and we know. And we don't have to spend years pining after something we never tried to see if it was within our paw's reach. I mean, this is our standard setup. Imagine a cat lacking self-confidence. Catfidence, as we call it, is what makes us cats, and it makes life really simple. Otherwise, it's not. I could see the first hand with my human. She was working on her book or some kind of plan for her book or whatever. Humans use some weird terms sometimes, so this one is apparently called a book proposal. Somehow it seems way too romantic term for such a thing to me, but I'm just a cat. Anyway, she's an excellent writer, my human, if I say so. And yet, I watched for weeks how she kept doubting herself and her ideas. It was painful to watch, I have to admit. I almost wished I could lend her some of the Catfident so she knew what it feels like. Of course, that is not possible, so I did the second best thing instead. I was by her side all the time as her best supporter, hoping she would read in my eyes that I believed in her so she would believe in herself too. Sometimes that's all it takes. When someone else believes in you, you start to believe in yourself too. I remember that from my kitten years. I think humans, despite being so big, are basically lifelong kittens, always just learning. Now tell me, do you have a dream you want to make a reality? Remember, you wouldn't have it if you couldn't achieve it. That's the first rule of Catfidence. This piece is called Catfidently You and was taken from catcoachdiaries.substack.com, where you can read the full piece as well as many others. This is also the home of the Cat Coach Cafe podcast, so if you subscribe, you won't miss any new episodes coming to you in autumn, as this is in fact our last episode of season 1. So subscribing is highly advised, so you can be reminded when the Cat Coach Cafe reopens again, and so the cat coaches can keep you company meanwhile. That said, if you want to keep tuning into the season with me, from April, my Substack will offer a paid membership option, which, apart from regular Cat Coach Diaries, will also include monthly video, which will help us tune to the current month energies, as well as a monthly journaling session with me to set our intention for the upcoming month. This is currently available at a discounted price of £6 a month, but only until the 24th of March, which is in fact my birthday, so take it as a gift from me to you. After that, the price will go up, so please do not miss this offer. It's completely risk-free too, and you can cancel anytime. I really hope you will join me and we can create a lovely new community over there. I'm so happy to welcome my dear friend Donna Bradley-Brown today in the Cat Coach Cafe. If you've been here the whole season 1, it was Donna who interviewed me in the first episode, and so I find it only fitting to bring her back to close it off together by sharing her story this time. Donna is a talented writer and poet who shares musing on life in all its colors on her Substack, Life is Beautiful, inspired by her horse, Sia, and the many animals she rescued. Over the years, she welcomed in her home in Mallorca nearly 40 animals, out of which 30 are cats. She also has 4 dogs, 2 pigs, and 2 hens. She also works as a veterinary nurse and, as you can tell, has a heart of gold. So I asked her all about her animals and their stories, how they changed her life, as well as her writing and what we can expect from her on her Substack in the future. So you have 30 cats. That is quite a few cats. And some of them, even as you mentioned to me, have been named after the Friends characters. So you have Ross and Monica and Chandler, and do you have all of them, really?
Yeah, I think we had most of the characters. We still got Ross, Joey, and Chandler, which were triplets, which we found just outside an uninhabited building down the road. And they were so tiny, and it was like right in the middle of summer, and there was no mother around anywhere. Because they were triplets, anyone who's a fan of Friends will remember the triplets that Phoebe had when she had the 2 boys and the girl, and she promised Chandler that she would call one of the triplets Chandler. And so when the 3rd triplet comes out, and she's like, Chandler's a girl. So we have Ross and Joey, who are boys, and Chandler is a girl from the same
Oh,
family.
okay. That's even better.
We've got Monica and Rachel and Ben out the front. Gosh, I did have Phoebe and Ursula. Who else? We got Gunther. Um, we got I think most of the characters here, and then there's others which are named based on their looks and how I feel like they deserve to be named. Um, but it never started off as a project to have so many cats. It just kind of happened when the first summer I moved back here because I was here back in like 2002 to 2007, then moved back in 2017. And that first summer, four kittens appeared in the garden just out of nowhere. And that's basically where it all started. So after those four kittens arrived, basically, I work as a veterinary nurse. So I got them castrated in the hope that we wouldn't have any more. But then the following year was when we found Ross, Joey, and Chandler down the road. So we brought them in. And at that point, we were thinking, this is crazy. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7 cats living outside, and the 3 cats which I brought with me from England in the first place. One of which was European when he was born here years and years ago, moved back to
Mhm.
England with me and moved across here. He would be like my soul cat if I had to describe one. His name was Duende. Long haired, kind of chocolate point, Siamese coloured, but not Siamese, with the brightest blue eyes possible. And he had the biggest character out of any cat I've ever known. Duende's my soul cat for sure.
What
Um,
was that character?
he
Yeah.
was a really good hunter, exceptionally good. Which, even though I'm vegan and I love all animals, for a cat to be doing what a cat should be doing, I was always proud of him that he did it so well. He was also an absolute gannet when it came to food. Like literally, I couldn't leave food anywhere. He was worse than any dog. Um, to the point where in England I used to get a veg box delivered weekly, and sometimes would order pastries and other things to go in it. And I started coming home, and half of the veg box would be eaten, including half of the pastries and everything else. To the point where one day I was a couple of times as well when I was due to travel from England across to Mallorca in the point when I was living back in the UK. I'd pack my bag, I'd pack my snack, go and just start making sure everything was sorted at home. And I'd go back up to my suitcase and my snack would be eaten, or there'd be half a sandwich missing. And it was always Duende. So, so yeah, he was pretty special, bless his heart. So yeah, they came across with me, my 3 English cats, Duende, my superstar, and Bluebell and Stardust, who were also rescues. And then, as I say, we had the 4 turn up in the garden. Valiant, Tigre, Valiant because that means brave, and he was the first one to be seen, and his sister Tigre and his brothers Abrico and Cass. And then after that, it just became a thing. It was like the cats had this kind of network where they were all saying to each other, "Come here, there's food, there's love. If you're sick, they'll treat you, they'll look after you," kind of thing. So I ended up in, gosh, between 5, 6 years, no less than that, 3 years, spending 2.5 grand basically castrating cats,
Oh,
sterilizing cats, to try and keep the population under control. But the problem at this point was because they were all from the same family, they were letting the other cats join the colonies, whereas most colonies of cats will not let cats in from another colony. But because they all evidently knew that they were related, they just kept letting more and more cats join the situation until the point where it did. At one point, I felt it was getting out of control, but then it seems like now it's on a kind of even keel. I've got it sorted, hopefully.
so you've been on the number 30 for how long now?
I would say about 3. I think we reached that number about 3 years ago.
Among so many cats, can you see the different characters? Are they all very different, or would you say that among so many cats there are some similarities, or are they really distinct characters? You feel like you live with 30 friends, basically.
Yeah, 100%. They are all so different, and it's been such a big learning curve having all these cats because a few things I didn't realize is that, firstly, male cats get a lot more stress than the females.
Mm.
So we had one who was Joey, actually, who before he was even a year old, he had a blocked bladder, and it kept recurring to the point where he was the worst case that the veterinary surgeons who I worked for at the time had ever seen. But we operated and managed to save his life, and now he's strong. He's too strong. He's the bully. He's the bully. He doesn't get on with any of the other cats, even his own siblings. And he's so big and he's so headstrong. But
Mm.
it's just lovely to see the the development in him. Um, and that he obviously managed to survive something which was very, very dangerous for him. The other thing I learned from cats is that the fathers do indeed look after the children. So I've had two fathers bring across their offspring in the absence of the mother, which I never realized happened. Yeah, I don't know, for some reason it never occurred to me that the father of a cat, of kittens, would actually look after them if the mother
Mm.
wasn't able to do so, or if something had happened to her. But we had Bobtail, who came across with three of his kittens. Um, and then we had Biscuit, who came with nine,
Wow.
obviously from two. I think they were slightly different ages, so from two litters, but he brought them all.
Mm.
Uh, and they stayed. They stay as families, living together and cuddle up. Even now, like 4 years on, the
Mm.
closest bond is between the direct family members. The girls in general are actually more chilled out and more confident and rule the roost. So the two elderly girls I've got, one Bluebell who's 17 and Stardust who's 15 going on 16, they basically have the most respect from all of the other cats out of anyone, and also from the dogs, because I've got four dogs as well. And it's absolutely insane because they're the weakest, obviously being the oldest. They're thin, they're so delicate, and yet everyone respects them.
Mm.
It's really quite emotional, but they're different characters. It's hilarious. It's so funny. I've got the aloof ones, the super affectionate ones. I've got Ross, who literally comes up and gives me full body cuddles at every opportunity given, and
Oh.
he's not even after food. He'll just come up, waiting for me at the gate like a dog would, and climb up my leg and just put his paws around me and cling on.
Oh, so
So
cute.
cute. It's just like it's a strange feeling that I can't imagine what it feels like to ever go home to a house without cats,
Mm.
um, or certainly without any animals, and just not have anyone waiting for me. Because now I drive home, I pull up the drive, and there's like all these, as you called them just now, friends waiting
Yeah,
for me, really
yeah.
excited to see me, possibly more than any person would be. And
Yeah.
for me, it's really something quite magical.
On one of your Substack blogs, you mentioned another very special cat named Bobo, a ginger cat that was your parents' cat, if I remember correctly. And I can't not ask about him. So can you tell us a little bit about him as well?
Yeah, of course. Well, um, my parents, when I first moved across here back in 2002, my mum and dad would come and visit me, obviously, and spend a weekend in New York on holiday or a week or so, and grew to love the island as much as I do. So when they both retired in the summer of 2009, they bought an apartment by the seaside here in Mallorca and moved across. They mentioned that there'd been this ginger cat hanging around, and that the neighbours had said that they weren't sure where he was from, but they thought that possibly the people who had owned the apartment previously had moved back to Germany and just left him
Oh, dear.
without kind of finding anyone to care for him. And I happened to be across staying with my mum and dad with a friend of mine who was also a veterinary nurse. We worked together at the time. And this ginger cat, sure enough, like mum and dad had said, kept hanging around on their patio and coming up to the door. And Emma and I, obviously being vet nurses and animal lovers, we were like, "Come on in then, mate. Come and join us." And he did, And he basically never left. And it became a big joke with mum and dad that I somehow managed to get them a cat and that they didn't want a cat. But in reality, what Bobo turned into was a best friend for my parents and
Mm.
someone extremely memorable to every single person who ever met him. So any friend I took across, um, he was like such a big part of the time there that you couldn't imagine it being any other way. My mum and my dad had an interesting relationship where my mum liked to talk a lot and my dad never liked to talk at all. But Bobo was a connection point between them, a
Mm.
communication, a connection point, something to joke about. My dad named him Bobo. I still have no idea why, but the name stuck. And we think he was definitely an adult cat when he first rocked up. So, and he was castrated already. Um, so probably around 4 years old. And all that time, he was just there. He was certainly a character, crotchety old thing at times. Like he'd come and sleep on the bed with me and my friends when we came across to stay. And if you made one false move, you'd end up with blood pouring out of your forehead or
Oi.
something. He was like, touch me, but on my terms only.
Oh.
Um, yeah, he just became something so integral, in particular, as I say, to the relationship between my mum and my dad. And just everyone who knew him, he went through a double cruciate surgery when
Mm.
he was some 13 years old as an estimate, which is a huge op, even to have a single cruciate um, repaired. But he went through a double cruciate surgery and came back strong. And we only finally had to say goodbye to him last year. And even then, he wasn't giving up easily. He was
How,
hanging on in there for all it was
how old
worth.
was he by then?
Gosh, if we reckon he was about 4 in 2009, what are we looking at? So,
Geez, well, he was like 19.
yeah, obviously it's only an estimate because he
Hmm.
rocked up, but he was definitely a full adult cat when he first
Wow.
turned up. There was nothing kitten-like about him at all. Um,
Wow. That's amazing. But mentioning how he was this point of connection between your parents, actually, I love what animals can do for us and how they can change us, how they can, yeah, be like help us connect even as humans, just the love for animals, which leads me to the story you also describe on Substack, because you also have a horse, you have a deep love for horses. And you mentioned in one of your writings a little girl who comes to see your horse. And even though you don't speak the same language, you somehow manage to communicate because it's basically the love and affection for the horse that somehow makes you understand each other.
yes, yeah. Well, one of the things when referring to the girl who now she's 10 years old, um, she's German. She doesn't speak any English or any Spanish, and it was a connection based on the fact that she would come across on holiday and stay at the finca where I think is like a farm stables kind of thing, where Sia, the horse who I have now, lives. And first she fell in love with Sia, and her friend said, "Oh, my friend Lotta really loves Sia. Would you mind if she helps you with her sometimes?" And I was like, "No, not at all." And then it just became this magical thing where she would follow me around, and without speaking a single word to each other, we somehow knew exactly what we were trying to say and how to communicate. And since then, I've had even more of a fascination than I had before with communication between different species, different nationalities, just communication in a different form from words, which is interesting because I'm a writer and I love words. But I find it absolutely fascinating how communication is so possible between people who don't speak the same language. And this is one of the things I find so incredible about animals is the fact that if we pay attention to them, we can actually understand what they're telling us. And they clearly always know what we're telling them. Um, so, I mean, as well as as the cats, which we've already talked about. I have the horse who was based on a. I've had a deep love for horses since I was a child, and I've always had white horses, which in English you call them grey horses, but I think everywhere else they're white horses. And Sia is now my fourth horse, and we have and are working on and developing every single day a very, very special connection. She's very headstrong. She's a mare, um, and she's kind of like my teacher, my therapist, and everything in between. She certainly lets me know when she's not happy with something, but equally so, she tries to understand me and help me learn as much as I do her. She's got a sense of humor. She's amazing.
Sorry, it just sounds so funny that a horse has a sense of humor.
I did wonder if anyone would think about that, but it's really true. So, like when I first got her, she would test me, but in ways that it was a proper challenge at that point to find out if I was suitable to be like in her circle, to see if I was suitable to be in her herd, basically, from her point of view. And she would really test me. Um, and at this point, before we knew each other and had this bond, it wasn't in the way it is now. Whereas now, when she's feeling playful, she'll do the tests again, but without so much strength and not lasting so long. So it's difficult to describe without actually seeing it. But when you know her, you can see exactly what she's doing. And she's funny as well because like she loves having a massage, and when she wants a massage, she'll move the part of her body towards me that she wants me to rub. So if she wants me to rub her shoulder, I'll be stood next to her stroking her, and then she'll suddenly like move her shoulder right towards me. Or if she wants me to rub like the top of her back leg, like her glute muscles, that kind of area, she'll move her butt round towards me, which to anyone who doesn't know her would look like maybe she's going to kick me. But it's not. It's just like, oh, this is where I want a rub. And it's just so many little quirks that she does now that like she plays with me and plays with my mind, but she also likes to help. So if I'm struggling, I'm not the best rider in the world, despite having had horses since I was young. And if I'm trying to get her to do something and I'm not giving the right aids, she'll try and guess what I'm trying to ask her to do and do it anyway to see if it's okay. And we kind of work through problems methodically together. It's really quite incredible. People who have horses might understand, but I think it's possibly a thing that happens. Well, no, it is. It's something which can happen with any animal. When you've got a connection, you've got a bond, that they will work with you. They will play on your soft points. They do. I think they do have a sense of humor for sure.
I mean,
Um,
cats surely do.
yeah,
I think half
exactly.
the time they're just making fun of us.
I'm sure they are. I know mine do.
But yeah, but it's so interesting that before I had my cats, I never had any animals. And it's sort of like just like I until now you started talking about Sia and what she's like, I had this idea of horses, like they're these elegant creatures, and like same with cats, I just felt like they're just, the fluffy balls that, sleep and, sleep in your lap if you're lucky, and that's it. It's like such a black and white view. And then you get to know these animals, and this whole world opens up for you where you realize there's such characters, and like yeah, they're just like us. It's incredible. It's and I mean it's logical. It's just until we create that connection with any animal, really, I believe we have just no idea. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Even when like I was saying that I've still got two hens left, and even them, they know their names at
Hmm.
nighttime. I mean, hens can't see very well, so they tend to take themselves to bed as dusk falls. But if I want to get them into the coop earlier, oh, sorry, into the run earlier before they go into their coop, I take the food, and if I don't call their names, they don't come. But when I call them, they come running. And the other interesting thing is, out of the two I've got left, one's still quite shy, But the like Marker, she's quite shy. But Davina, when I when I go out to the back, even if I've got food or not, she comes running up to me and she'll instantly do this kind of like head duck, wing up thing, like dropping down as if she wants me to stroke her. I think they do it with males when the cockerels come along, they do it as to be submissive. And she does that to me. She literally comes flying up to me, lifts up her wings, puts down her head and her back, and stands there for me to stroke her feathers. And it's just so cute. And the fact that they know their names as well. So like if someone else is helping me feed the animals of an evening, and they're like just shaking the bucket of chicken feed, the chickens won't follow. But if I go out them and call their names, they're straight after me. It's incredible. And yet people might think being something so small and that a lot of people are accustomed to thinking of food, or of as food, not me being vegan, but a lot of people don't kind of see chickens as personalities, as living beings, would be surprised to know just how intelligent they are.
So you also have a pig.
Yes, yeah, she was a rescue as well with her brother from um, another rescue centre, which basically over here in Mallorca, you're only allowed a certain amount of livestock. And
Mm.
the owner of the sanctuary had rescued too many pigs and had more pigs needing a home. Basically, so we went there, managed to get them. They were so small at six
Mm.
months old. Originally, two little black pot-bellied pigs, one called Renata and one called Norbert, and they
Mhm.
came to live with us here. Was really very tragic with Norbert because on New Year's Eve, when he was 1 year old, which must be 2 years ago now, yeah, he suddenly got sick, and straight away I knew what it was. He was trying to wee, and of course I've seen this. I have no experience with pigs and livestock, particularly, but I've seen it with cats. And obviously Joey, as I said earlier, had the blocked bladder. And to
Mm.
see Norbert on New Year's Eve trying to wee and not being able to, I just thought, this is bad. And we took him to the hospital, and basically over here, and for probably a lot in general, but in particular over here, pigs are not pets, they're livestock. And so the vets over here are just simply not accustomed to operating or saving a pig's life. It's basically if a pig is sick, that's it. They don't try and save it, and neither do the farmers who have them. And so to initially try and unblock the bladder and to find that the blockage was too difficult to unblock would have involved a major surgery, which the vet had never performed before, to try and save Norbert. So in the end, based on the fact it was freezing cold and the recovery would be very, very difficult and also very unlikely he would recover, we did have him put to sleep, which I was absolutely devastated by.
Mm.
Renata, at the time, obviously was left on her own. I was extremely worried about her and how she would cope, um, but also worried about introducing a new pig because pigs can be, well, like it's like anyone, isn't it? If you meet someone and you don't like them, you simply don't like them. You get a vibe from someone, and it can happen a lot with pigs as well. So basically, in the aftermath of losing her brother, my mum, myself, my friends, we all put together to find toys and games and as much as we could to entertain Renata. Basically gave her a life of luxury because she's also like a dog. She comes running up to me
Mm.
when she sees me. She makes the cutest noises. If I stroke her ears, she loves it. If I stroke her tummy, I just have to stroke her side, and then suddenly she'll capsize with her legs in the air for a tummy rub, making all these cute squeaky noises. So it was basically Project Renata after this point, when we lost her brother, to see if she would be happy on her own with the cats for company, because obviously with so many cats, she has cats sleeping with her
Mm.
um, as well. And so far, she seems happy. She seems really, really happy. So I haven't introduced another pig for fear that it could end up worse.
Mm.
Um, and I just try to spend as much time with her as I possibly can and entertain her. But again, it's like this amazing connection and relationship with another being who speaks a completely different language.
Mm.
Um, and understanding what she likes, what she needs, and she tells me again what she doesn't. She likes to run around and play. She'll get the zoomies. It's hard work having so many animals. It's really hard work. You don't get It's not like how they always portray it on social media about having cats or dogs or anything. It's like really relaxing. When you've got this many, there's nothing relaxing about it at all. But
Mm.
it's incredibly rewarding for
You
sure.
basically run a little sanctuary with so many animals, and you're
Yeah,
just one person.
basically, yeah.
Are your
Um,
dogs rescues as well?
yes, yeah, the dogs are all rescues as well. So I have a kind of an interesting family of animals for sure.
You're also a veterinary nurse, and I was just wondering what kind of education you need to become a veterinary nurse.
Okay, well, in the UK, there's two main ways of doing it. The most common way is to call around the local clinics and hospitals in your area and see if they've got any placements going, if they need anyone to work there whilst studying. And then you get your placement in the vets, and at that point, get signed up to the Royal College of Veterinary Medicine, in which case you can study to become an RVN, which is basically a registered veterinary nurse. The other way in to do it is to study through, for example, an agricultural college or to do a recognised course and then look for a job after that, where you would then get more hands-on experience in an actual clinic yourself. Across here in Spain, what tends to happen is that there's um, different like courses that you can sign up for to become an auxiliar, as they call it, which is the equivalent of a nurse over here. And you start studying at home, do a couple of months worth of study, and get in a placement with a clinic or hospital where you have to accrue a certain amount of hours before you get given the title of veterinary auxiliar.
And in your case, which way you took?
I trained in the UK and I'm not actually an RVN, and I wouldn't take that title because it's unfair on the girls who did study for 2 to 3 years in order to get that title and have the hardcore exams and everything. I wanted to study for it, but because they could only offer me part-time hours in the clinic which I worked in the UK, all my experience was hands-on. But having said that, I have 10 years of experience, well, 11 now actually, five in the UK, 5 or 6 in the UK, and 6 here, and have done everything that the registered veterinary nurses do. But it wouldn't be fair to claim that title without having gone through the strict exams and college and courses that they've had to do themselves. I always wanted to work with animals. When I was younger, the initial dream was to be a vet, but then as I grew up, you kind of learn a bit more about what vets do, the responsibility on their shoulders, and the little amount of studying you have to study for longer to become a vet than you do to become a doctor. Because obviously, there's a whole load of different species and so much more that you
Wow.
need to learn. If you're studying to become a vet in England, you have to do also you have to study equine veterinary. You have to study farm and livestock as well, even if not in such depth as you study small
Mm.
animals, and you also study exotics. Over here in Spain, not so much. They start off, what I would say here is the vets that start as qualified vets are almost at the level of a qualified RVN in the UK. And then they get hands-on experience and learn whilst working in the practice. Whereas in the UK, you can't call yourself a qualified vet until you've done the 6, 7 years worth of university study.
I just remembered, I read a book by a vet from the UK, and it was just so funny how he described there the cases he would get and saying like people would always like expect any vet to know all the species. And he was like recounting in the book all the, unthinkable species people would turn up with. And he had no idea how to treat them and how he handled those situations. It was just so funny to read because it's true that we would expect, vets to know everything, right? But
Yeah.
the reality is that he would then go like in some other room and quickly Google and study, and it's incredible, yeah.
Yeah, the vets when I was working in the UK would always the worst thing you could possibly tell them would be when someone phoned up and they said they had a sick hen. You'd just watch the vet's face change because hens are so complicated and so delicate in the first place. And in the end, living in a countryside area like I did when I was in the UK, one of our vets actually went and trained and specialised in hens.
Wow.
Um, she was called because she also specialised in feline medicine as well and feline,
Mm,
um, which is obviously very valuable to have as a vet.
mm.
Um,
So back to you. How did you end up at the clinic?
when I first moved back to the UK after living in Spain the first time round, um, I was looking for jobs, found a standard job in a supermarket, hated it, so kept on looking. And there came up a job in asking for a receptionist actually initially in the vets, which I'd used years and years before and had very, very bad memories of, very bad experience with, as unfortunately they had to put to sleep my cat and my horse within 2 weeks, which is
Oh,
obviously a huge devastation. And so I had mixed feelings about applying for the job because in my childhood brain, I still blamed the vet for
mm,
not being able to save my animals. But in my rational adult brain, I thought, well, what if he did all he could? What if he did everything he possibly could, which was actually the case? Um, and because it had always been my dream, I thought, well, I'm not going to let it stop me, the feeling uncomfortable about the situation initially. So I went for the job as a receptionist. And at the end of the interview, um, I was told that actually they were also looking for a veterinary nurse to cover a maternity role, a maternity post. And she thought I would make an excellent nurse. And would I be
mm.
interested in that instead of being on reception? So
Wow.
that's how it started really for me.
I have to say, I really admire that you went to the clinic that actually you had such bad experience with or bad memories, because it must have been sort of very self-healing going there and working there and
It, yeah, it was difficult initially, certainly with the vet who was the one who treated my animals. But it was I'm so glad I did it because it really opened my mind and my heart to the fact that it's a really difficult profession to be in because there's so many people, even adults, who like blame the vets, like I did when I was a child, for not being able to save their pet, um, for not being able to fix the impossible. And these vets are under such high pressure, and the nurses as well. And they really, or should I say, we really don't get the appreciation we deserve. Um, the vets tend to get more respect than the nurses because people don't quite realize that the nurses are behind the scenes actually keeping the animals alive, whilst the vets save the lives. The nurses keep
mm,
the animals alive by monitoring the anesthetics and administering the drugs and keeping an eye on the patients when they're hospitalized, making sure they've got everything they need. And then the vets are there with the expertise and the knowledge and the ones who are actually saving lives every day. Um, and it's a tough profession to be in because you have to be there for the clients and their emotions as well as the pets. You have to be patient with the clients when they're distraught or angry, naturally, because their pets are their world. Um, but it's obviously incredibly rewarding as well. And working in the vets has shown me in the profession has shown me the other side of things.
you mentioned you moved to Mallorca with your two cats, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, actually, three cats at the time.
Oh, three cats. Wow.
Yes.
So my question is because a lot of people would be put off from either moving abroad because of their animals, like me, for example, or we know the many sad cases when people just abandon their cats because they move abroad and they feel like it's impossible to take them with them for
Yeah.
whatever reason. So, what is your experience with moving with cats to not just another country, but even to an island?
Well, it's obviously cats are always a little bit different from dogs because most dogs, I will generalize here, most dogs do enjoy a car ride because it means a walk or something else like that. Um, Cats in general hate one
Yeah.
going in the basket and two going in. going in a car, going in a vehicle. How we did it actually, because I came across here with my husband at the time, and he has a van. So we managed to set up the van. So it had 3 kennels in it with
Mm.
litter trays and water so that the cats didn't have to go long hours without being able to use a litter tray. Um, Obviously, the important thing for legal reasons was to make sure that their rabies vaccine was up to date and that things have changed now. It's not as complicated as it was before. When I first moved back to the UK back in 2007, the animals had to have a blood test 6 months before traveling and
Mm.
after having the rabies vaccine to check that they were rabies free and they were able to travel. Now, certainly between England and Spain, as long as the rabies vaccine is given 3 weeks before traveling, the pet can travel, and it has to be signed and stamped in the passport, and the passport has to have a stamp directly over the vet's signature, both in the place where the vaccine is put down and in the place where the passport is issued, because otherwise that can cause big problems at customs as well. Um, so it's very important to check that everything in the passport is absolutely 100% up to date. Um, and not all vets will know how to do this if they're not experienced with pets traveling from their practice. From the, as I say, from the comfort point of view for the cats, the most important thing was to give them the space to be able to use a litter tray, have water and food. And in actual fact, because it's such a long journey, um, basically first they had to do the Channel Tunnel
Mhm.
from England across to France. Then after that, obviously the long drive down to um, Barcelona to get the ferry. And on the ferry, technically, what you are meant to do is all your pets have to go in the kennels on the ferry. There's a couple of different ferries that go between Mallorca and Barcelona, and they have different setups for the kennels. Some are better than others. There's one which the kennels are directly on the deck, which never made me feel secure at all. Another
Mm.
one where they're on the deck, we're in a room with a shut door, which is a little bit better. And then the best of the ferries has in the middle of the one of the decks, there's an island where the glass kind of walls around it so that you can see through into the kennels where your pets are. Um, and this was where, when we took the dogs across, we literally slept on the deck all freezing cold night long so that our dogs could see us and we could see them. With regards to the cats, what actually ended up happening, I flew across so that I would be here to set up the house first and make sure that there was someone here and it was all set up and cozy and that they had their beds and the bowls and everything they knew from their previous home set up here in the new home, whilst um, my husband at the time drove them across here. And what he did for the ferry journey is actually slept in the van with them, which is not
Mm.
to be recommended because it's not technically allowed. Um, but he got out when you were meant to get out of the car, and then he climbed back in, shut the doors, and then ignored when they banged on the door to see if anyone was in there. Um, Otherwise, what you need to do if you're going to declare keeping a cat or a dog in the van, well, if you're going to keep a dog or cat in your own personal transport, because they're not being supervised at that point, you do have to sign a waiver. So you
Mm.
still have to pay for the kennel, but you have to sign a document to say I'm leaving my pets in my vehicle whilst we travel, rather than putting it in the kennel. Um, there are also now ferries which do have rooms where you are allowed to take a dog into, which is
Mm.
much better. I haven't tried it with cats though, but I imagine you're allowed to take a cat into the room as well.
I mentioned before several times your Substack. Um, can you tell us what it is called, where we can find you, and what do you write about?
My Substack basically is called Life is Beautiful. And what I aim to do through it is to explore the kind of daily trials and tribulations that we all go through, the highs and lows, and happiness and sadness, which all run parallel to each other, and try and find ways to get through these life challenges that we face in as positive a way as possible, seeking inspiration from nature and animals and the people around us. Um, I'm basically, as I say, I'm fascinated by how sadness and joy kind of hold each other's hands, and how fragility and strength complement each other. And I find it amazing the capacity that we as human beings have to stand back up when we've been knocked down, and how we manage to kind of grow and develop and progress when we actually find the strength to believe that we can. Um, Obviously, me being me and what we talked about before, um, I'm really interested in the relationship between animals and humans, and as I touched on before, sort of communication between species and people who don't speak the same language. And I just try and create through my Substack, what I want to create is a kind of peaceful, beautiful zone, which to stop my readers feeling alone, and to kind of try and offer a bit of an inspirational path through things, whilst still acknowledging that, yeah, this life is tough, and we all do face these challenges that sometimes we really feel that it's hard to find a way out of.
Can we expect more of the stories of your animals there anytime in the future?
Yeah, what I have been thinking about doing and hoping to get set up is, I was thinking of doing maybe under a different name, but linked to my current Substack, um, Donna Bradley-Brown at substack.com, um, was to do something about the sanctuary, to maybe do a weekly or fortnightly post from each of the animals, or certainly the ones which have their personalities and characters and which I interact with the most, um, to try and bring a bit of color and light, and to show people more about what I'm doing, and to introduce people more to the different personalities that animals can have. Because listening to me describe how different each of the 30 cats is nothing compared to actually seeing them, interacting with them, um, watching how they behave, both with me and with the other cats and the dogs and everything like that. So I thought it would be quite fun and interesting to do a kind of blog from my own sanctuary. And as I say, with the point of view from a different animal each week or each fortnight. So that's on the cards in the future anyway.
That sounds fun, and we need the pig and the hens, especially.
Yeah, they can tell some stories, I'm sure.
You also write beautiful poetry, although that usually is on your Instagram. Any plans on including that on your Substack as well?
I love writing poetry. I always have since I was a child. I think that stems from my mum, who always used to write poems, and also my dad, who every morning, and I find I do this myself, he used to make up the most ridiculous and silly songs, and every morning he would make up these songs and sing them, and they always rhymed. And what with that and my mum always writing poetry, I've grown up doing the same thing. So I would start by making poetry about the most simple things, the most ridiculous things, and then even now I'll sing to the dogs when I'm walking to the dogs in rhyme form and stuff like that. If anyone here was to hear me, they think I'm absolutely bonkers, which I probably am. Um, yeah, I also write more serious poetry. I find especially when I'm going through a tough time. But yeah, the poems, I have included some of them on Substack already, and I plan to try and do it a bit more. I think in my latest Substack, I included a poem which I actually recited out loud about Sia, about my horse, and the emotion she brings to me, and her connection to my first pony who I had, and the similarities between them. So yeah, I do. Poetry is something I really, really want to include a lot more of in my Substack as well.
The biggest lesson you've learned from living with animals?
Wow. This is an interesting one. I would say the biggest lesson with living with animals is that you can't plan anything because they always have their own plan. And especially living with so many of them, um, you can never predict exactly what's going to happen, how they're going to be. Um, Animals don't understand being in a hurry. They don't understand the pressure of life. They don't understand deadlines, that kind of thing. So it's almost living with animals teaches you and has taught me that I have to be more relaxed about stuff. I have to be more easygoing. I have to accept that things won't always go to plan because it simply doesn't. Just having this capacity to allow flow and change in every single daily activity and daily motion. The other thing I would say that I've learned is obviously about how unconditional love is, um, because it doesn't matter what mood I'm in. If I come home from work in a bad mood or I'm feeling sad or whatever else, they're always there and they know exactly how to treat me from that. Um, so they know when I need more comfort. They know when I want fun. They know when I don't want so much, I don't know, kind of attention, but they still give it to me in their own way. It's a curious combination of kind of give and take and understanding between
Mm.
them and between myself. And I just find it's incredible to learn the power that these animals have and how clever they all are. As we've said before, how they're all so individual and they all know so much more about me than I know about myself.
Next week, the astrological new year starts with the spring equinox. And we've been talking a lot in this episode about taking brave steps towards our dreams and new beginnings and taking action. So if we look at spring in this way as a new start, as a new year in a way, what would you wish for people to take into this new fresh start with them?
I think you've very much kind of summed it up already in what you said there. I mean, to me, spring being so symbolic of new life, it always personally brings me a lot of hope and a lot of inspiration to bring new life to my own dreams and goals. The days are lighter, the temperatures are generally milder. Yeah, I find just like you've said there, it's almost the beginning of a new year, and I find that very much myself. I'm not the type of person to just save New Year's resolutions for the 31st of December.
Mm.
I prefer personally to, if I'm feeling inspired or maybe feeling that I haven't been putting enough effort into something that I really want to achieve, that kind of thing. I think I can make a new resolution to be the best version of myself and to do the best I can to follow my dream in any given moment, whether it's a new morning or a new hour at any time. And I find that spring always brings me this extra light and motivation to do so. Um, I also find that whilst on the subject of new life, it's also a time that makes me reflect on the lives, well, on life in general, the lives of those I got around me and of myself. And so, what I would say to people listening to this podcast to take into spring would be hope and ambition and and a lightness, and also to really show love to those they care for, to the people around them, and especially of course to their pets and their cats, um, and just cherish life because the cycle of life can be sometimes really short, sometimes it can be longer, but every single moment is a moment we're blessed with.
Yeah. And to that, I will only just add that we should also cherish ourselves and give love to ourselves as well.
Of course, yeah, for sure. And that's something which so many people tend to forget. and leave the
Including
hive.
me.
Yes, and me, because well, you noticed I didn't mention it first. So
We always forget about ourselves, unfortunately. So we need to keep reminding ourselves.
yes, yeah, because I can't remember who said this to me, but someone said to me fairly recently that if we don't nurture ourselves, then we're no good to anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah. With equally long day and night, the spring equinox brings a great opportunity to seek balance in our own lives. How can you bring more balance to your life? Are you always stretched in one area of your life and not paying enough attention to another? Are you giving too much of yourself to others and not enough to yourself? Is your life just work and no play? Or is your diet unbalanced with too much sugar or processed foods? Do you get enough sleep and time to relax? And if not, how can you add more relaxing activities into your life and some more sleep? These are all great questions to ask ourselves on this powerful day and make some plans for change if we find we are unbalanced in some way, as most of us would be. Spring is also a perfect time to detox our bodies by switching to a lighter diet and introducing more fresh fruits and veggies again, but also a time to detox and declutter our minds. There are also many beautiful detoxifying yoga flows available online, which will do wonders for both your body and mind. And if you let your workout routine slip throughout the winter month, like I did, now is the time to start being active again and work on that physique. And who knows, perhaps it might be one of the first new things for you to try this spring by trying some new physical activity you've never tried before. How about that? And if you have not gotten your hands on some decluttering as suggested in the last episode, now truly is the perfect time. All our ancestors would do some major spring cleaning to welcome in the new season and also to prepare for Easter. If you don't feel inspired or up for any major decluttering for your own good, in the spirit of the Lent, which encourages us to give to others, how about you go through your things to find something you could donate and thus helping someone in need while also making that space in your own life? You can donate directly or choose a charity that speaks to your heart. I often donate to cat charities who resell anything I donate, and it just fills my heart while emptying my spaces, so it's a win-win, really. Easter comes rather late this year, in mid-April, but before we part our ways and close the door to the Cat Coach Cafe for the lighter part of the year, I wanted to leave you with the origin story of Easter, which I found in the beautiful book by Kirsty Gallagher, The Sacred Seasons. The spring equinox is associated with Ostara, the Germanic goddess of the dawn, who represents fertility, renewal, rebirth, and awakening, and responsible for bringing in spring. Her symbols were the egg, which contains the full potential of new life, and the hare, known for its fertility. Legend goes that the animal kingdom gathered for the arrival of the goddess, and each wanted to give her a gift. The hare had nothing of value, and so gave her all that he did have, an egg, which he decorated for her. The goddess saw his true kindness and spirit in the gift, and declared the hare as her special animal. Another legend has it that Ostara found a bird almost frozen to death and rescued it by transforming it into a rabbit who had the ability to lay colored eggs. Ostara later became Easter, which is celebrated on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox. also known as the hare moon, with both the egg and the Easter bunny continuing to be symbol of this celebration. And with that, my dear ones, the door to the Cat Coach Cafe closes. We will reopen again in September, just in time for the autumn equinox and to embrace the dark part of the year again. Until then, you can find us at catcoachdiaries.substack.com. You can subscribe for free to receive new Cat Coach Diaries to keep your catspiration going, or join my paid membership where we will gather each month to set intentions and journal together, as well as keep on tuning to the season. Remember, the membership is currently on offer for just £6 per month, but only until March 24th, so take advantage of this offer while you can. Otherwise, you can also find me on Instagram at MoneyForce, and our Cat Coach Cafe official playlist on Spotify also remains active, just as any of my seasonal instrumental playlists. All the links are in the show notes. And lastly, check the recipe. My Substack for Czech seasonal recipes will also be updated in the coming month. So if you fancy some Czech vibes in your life, subscribe for free at checktherecipe.substack.com, where Czech is spelled as in the Czech Republic. And that is all, my dear ones. If we don't see each other over on Substack, I wish you the most beautiful spring and summer, and hope it's as fruitful for you as you wish and hope for. Stay cozy, cuddle those cats of yours, and most of all, keep on living catfully. Until next time.